time. Congressman, 90 seconds for a response.
Listen, it's time to finally tell the truth here. Senator Cruz just looked into a camera and lied to Texans about my position. Let's be very clear. You should look into the camera and speak to Kate Cox, who's watching right now, and explain to her why you said that this law that you said is perfectly reasonable, why she was forced to leave her 2 children behind and flee our state to get the care that she needed. Or look into the camera and talk to Amanda Zarowski, who's watching right now, and explain to her why it's perfectly reasonable that because she had a complication in her pregnancy and was denied care so long that she may never be able to have children of her own. Or to the 26,000 Texas women who've been forced to give birth to their rapist child under this law that you called perfectly reasonable. It's not. This is not freedom. I trust Texas women to make their own healthcare decisions. You know, Allie and I had 2 baby boys here in Dallas in the last 5 years. You're scared the entire time. You don't know what they're going to say. But I can't imagine if the doctor would come in, said there's a problem with the baby or a problem with Allie, but there's nothing I can do because Ted Cruz thinks he knows better. That's not who we are as Texans.
Where you are. Well, guys, when I got here around 11 this morning, the line was wrapped around the building. Now I can actually see the end of it. Things are slowing down. And the voters I talked to said they didn't mind the wait. Voters have their reasons.
I will be out of town.
Make sure that I was healthy enough to get out here.
Whatever the motivation, voters brought themselves and their positive attitudes out as early as 6:30 in the morning in Gwinnett County.
I got here at 10 after 10, and I had to go all the way down to the other end of the building. And I was in line 50 minutes and then inside another 10 minutes.
Though R.D. Lee says inside was smooth sailing, there was a wait. However, I sensed no frustration. Many of them just chit-chatted to pass the time.
I actually was very surprised by the turnout. I didn't think it was going to be as many people out here as early as it is. But
24-year-old Christopher Clements happily made the hike to the back of the line. He stood behind voters who held his spot for him.
This election is probably one of the most, what some might label or categorize as sensitive.
This is Clements' second presidential election, but Lee says this isn't his first rodeo. He thinks voters are more enthused than ever.
I think it's going to be a larger turnout than they're predicting, and like it was back when Reagan ran.
Thank you, Lord, but because we need to get out and make sure we vote.
Welcome to Let It Be Known, and welcome back to the one and only Austin Cooper.
Good to see you, Stacey. How are you, my brother?
Oh, man. Austin has appeared, you know, all these African and Dubai trips and
Here we go.
going across the world, sailing around on that expensive yacht that he does.
But there's nowhere I'd rather be than Let It Be Known. Good to see you, man.
It's always good to see you, the one and only. First of all, Austin, you have been posting something lately, and I think it's worth us just giving it a minute to it anyway. I mean, more than a minute, but you know, we hadn't planned on it. But about the Lockridge Community Center. Just fill folks in just a little bit on that because it's such an important program.
Yeah, well, thank you for this opportunity. What Stacey, viewers and listeners are referring to is the William O. Lockridge Community Foundation, a nonprofit founded by the late William Lockridge's widow, Wanda Lockridge. William, who passed away suddenly in January of 2011, was the Ward 8 representative to the State Board of Education here in Washington, D.C., was a lifelong community activist. He was a longtime teacher and wrestling coach at Ballou Senior High School. So after his passing in the spring of 2001, his widow, Wanda, founded this nonprofit foundation, which is based in Southeast Washington. And our primary mission, as you know, Stacey, is to raise scholarship monies for high school seniors in Ward 7 and 8 to attend colleges and universities across the country. So during the history of the foundation, and we have been going strong for 14 years now, we have raised over $400,000 for scholarships for over 100 students to attend colleges and universities across the country. As you're aware, another component of the program, a pillar of the program, is the International Ambassadors Program, in which we take students every other year to different parts of Africa. Again, high school students from Ward 7 and 8. In recent years, we have gone to Cameroon, we've gone to Benin, we've gone to Ghana, and most recently, our students this past summer 4 Lockridge ambassadors were in Madagascar. Next year, the plan is to take 4 students to Angola, which is on the west coast of Africa. And then under that International Ambassadors Program is what you're more familiar with, and Denise and others, which is the U.S. Foreign Service Initiative, in which for 6 weeks each semester, we bring together students every Saturday for 2 hours, every other Saturday for 6 weeks, and have them participate in conversations, as it will, with you and Denise and others on careers in international affairs. You know, you and Denise have spoken about careers in domestic and international media. We've had folks come from the White House and the State Department to talk to these young people about careers in diplomacy, international trade, et cetera. So that in a very broad, it's like a high level overview of what the foundation is doing. And we are getting ready for our, if I may add, on November 9th, our Dancing with the Scholars show program to take place on November 9th at the Arc. So
awesome. It's an awesome program. Austin has given me the pleasure and the privilege of being able to speak to these kids. And this is the type of programs that we all need in all of, certainly in our neighborhoods, in Black communities, brown communities. These young kids, they come in, some of them shy, some of them really looking for a way to just have something that they can hold on to, and this really gives them that. And it is such a great thing to see those young kids, those young Black and brown children in those communities have a place to go. Sort of like when I was growing up, there, you know, there was the Y and other little places that we can go, but today you're hard pressed to find that. And what you guys, Austin, doing in DC is amazing. Mike V says, I wish I had that program when I was younger, because these kids, they come in and they get a chance to do so many things. And as Austin mentioned, they get provided trips. Many of them, this trip to Africa, many of them have not even left DC, let alone go to Africa.
Exactly.
So
and as you just referenced, Jace, you know, you see it's fascinating to see these students really evolve. I mean, they all have potential. And it's really fascinating over the 6 weeks as we're engaging in different areas of, different topic areas, to see them come out of their shells. Normally the first session, and we have on average 10 students. So I would say at least half, maybe even the majority of them are very shy, very quiet when they first start in that first session. They don't necessarily know one another the first time they're meeting, but by the time we're at the 6th session and we are giving, Wanda's presenting them with their awards of completion, they are hopefully lifelong friends. And again, we have exposed them to think outside of the box with regard to career options.
Well, again, we appreciate that. And we had lots of news this morning, including some news. You're going to have 2 gray bearded men talking about Meg Thee Stallion today. So how about that? Something's gonna go wrong. Something's gonna be amiss. But there's a few things. First, one, now here's an offbeat. I just wanted to throw this out there. It's a very offbeat topic, but I find it interesting because I'm a fan of rock music as well as in pop music and stuff like that. But a reunion tour, Austin. This is so the reason I'm bringing this up. But a reunion tour of the legendary rock band Van Halen was just totally taken off the table, canceled, because David Lee Roth refused to pay tribute to the late Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen, one of the greatest guitar players to ever walk the earth. But according to Alex Van Halen, they had started doing rehearsals and everything. And he said he had reached out to Brian May, I think it was Brian May of Queen, and asked, well, how do you guys do shows and how do you do tributes to Freddie Mercury? And he told them how they did it or whatever. And so this is what he wanted to do for his brother. I mean, there's no Van Halen without Eddie. And David Lee Roth, who famously has feuded with Eddie, In the past, in the 80s, the group broke up like 3 times. They changed lead singers because of uh, David Lee Roth's craziness. He said absolutely not. He went into this whole fit. And so the thing is, these groups, you mean you can't, Austin, you can't come together to do a tour. You got millions of fans to do a tour, make yourself millions of dollars
Thank you.
because you simply won't pay tribute to the guy who is responsible. It's like the Jacksons not paying a tribute to Michael.
How could you do that? Without Michael, there would not have been the Jacksons. No, I heard a little about this controversy, and it makes no sense to me. As you mentioned, these men are up in years now. Who doesn't want to make millions of dollars doing what you love doing? And whatever tension or controversy that was there before, the fans don't care about that. The fans want what they want. So why not give the fans what they want and reunite, put your differences aside, and make the world a happier place.
I mean, look, families feud all the
All the
time.
time. What makes
But
them different?
yeah, you have to come together. I have 5 brothers, and like my oldest brother recently, he's been reaching out through text. He wants everybody to get together next month, all the brothers to get together next month. And my only objection is, why does it got to be at your house? It's like, that's my problem with why does it always, come on. So let's see if we'll be able to come to some sort of agreement.
Yeah, but Stacey, think about it. How many of us have family feuds? And if we come together, we can make millions of dollars.
Right.
So,
I think if my family came together, we can make millions, but we need
you say
somebody
you
like
could?
you.
You say you could or you couldn't?
I think we could.
Absolutely.
We need like you to be like the manager and Greer to be the director of that, though.
Oh, we make millions. We make millions.
Without question. My family, they're off the chain.
Yeah.
My
What would my
brothers.
cut be?
Huh?
What would my cut be?
Well, I mean, we can negotiate anywhere from 2 to 3%. I mean, come on.
Okay. I mean, I do consider myself family.
Come on, you can't be messing with the family's money. Oh gosh. But that, I just thought I'd bring that up. And prior to us going on, Austin and I had a conversation. We were starting a conversation about Barack Obama's recent comments. And I just wanted to finish that on air. Actually, we had no choice but to finish it on air. Greer cut us off.
Greer cut us off. I was like yelling. I mean, Stacey was yelling at me. I was yelling at him. And all of a sudden it went, "You're backstage." And
She exercised her authority over us.
And she muted me.
Muted, right? And that's you know what that means. It's like saying shut up.
Yep, exactly.
Not even be quiet down.
No,
It's just shut up. How rude is that?
Yeah, like go stand in the corner.
Stand in the corner, Austin.
But
go ahead, Austin. I'll let you take it.
No, Stacey and I were talking about I guess it is a controversy of President Obama's comments to young Black men a couple of days ago, encouraging them to get out the vote. Basically, some viewed it as a scolding, some viewed it as an admonishment. I thought it was words that needed to be said. I don't think his intention was to be condescending. I certainly, and as an almost 62-year-old, did not see it that way.
You're 62, huh?
There are,
You 62?
November 21st, brother.
Daggone it.
Getting old, man. I'm not young like you and Greer. Yeah. So, in this, in such an important election, I don't understand why our young Black men cannot unite behind this qualified sister who will make history as the first female and the first Black and woman of Indian descent, Asian descent, to make it to the White House. We are going to have Black men, white men, everybody's going to have issues, find something to be upset about with every single candidate. I'm a fan of Barack Obama, but I think Barack Obama did more that he could have done in terms of a specific Black agenda, which I think is where you're going.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
think,
criticism that I do have of him.
yeah. I also, yeah, well, whether he could have done more or not, I think he could have focused more. I don't know if he could have done more, but at least focus more on trying
Point
to
taken.
do
Point taken.
more of a Black agenda. But um, but here's the thing. I think what Obama took heat for was the forum he used. Um, I think you're probably right. He probably those were words that probably needed to be heard, and he felt he had a platform to say it at that particular time. But I think a lot of people took him to task on where he said it. As I was saying beforehand, if you remember, I think people turned heavily, whether they believe in his innocence or guilt, heavily against Bill Cosby because of the forum in which he told Black men to pull their pants up. And I think that that's what really why he didn't get support. And I think in Obama's case, it's the same thing. It's like he's telling Black people, Black men in particular, what they should and shouldn't be doing in a forum that really is a white forum. I know he was speaking to Black folks. I think it was ABC's cameras, ABC News's cameras that captured all of this. And I think there's something to be said about going to the source. Because again, making that comparison, that particular comparison to Bill Cosby is, it was at this event. I believe it was like a white event that Cosby was at when he made this, or white. There was a white presentation anyway when he made this pound cake speech. And
Yeah.
so I think folks really said, "Hey, you think you're better than us?" And I think that's the problem Obama has.
Yeah.
You think you better than us? And so, but all that being said, though, all that being said is, with all that being said, I should say is, I think you and Mike V, David Youngblood actually is the one saying he sees no problem with it. I think that what you have is a message that definitely needed to be given. But if you are supporting someone or something that is extremely detrimental to your community,
Yes.
then you got a problem,
Yeah.
and you need to be called out on it.
Well, I think going back to Bill Cosby and young brothers, keeping wearing belts and keeping their pants secure by their waist. Had he made that comment at a Black church or the annual convention of the NAACP, I think he would have still taken incoming by Black folk who were upset with him. Had Barack Obama made that comment at the this summer at the NABJ conference in Chicago or wherever that was, I think he would have taken incoming. But look, were these same brothers how many folks in the Black community were equally offended when Donald Trump started selling those gaudy looking gold Trump sneakers? How many of us were offended when he had said publicly before white audiences that the Black community can relate to me more because I have an arrest record?
Yeah. Listen, this stuff it's all very interesting. And what I also find interesting, and I know Greg hates when I do this, and I try not to do it, but what I also find interesting,
Stacy.
when you find people who refer to the vice president as this guy here says as dumb, I mean, that it shows you're dumb.
Yes.
It really shows you're dumb.
Yes.
To refer to her as dumb. If you don't like her, you don't like her. You have every right not to like someone. But someone who has worked their way up to become a prosecutor, a district attorney, a attorney general, a senator, U.S. senator, and a vice president, and you refer to as dumb. it shows who you are more than anything else. I mean, criticize her policies, criticize the job that you feel that she may have not done or whatever, but you cannot call her dumb. You can't. It shows you are extremely uneducated, extremely probably racist. I'm gonna say it.
Agreed.
Probably racist. Because if you think she's dumb, then what do you think about her opponent who
Thank
stands on the stage for 35 minutes
Exactly.
and he can't articulate 2 words? So give it a rest.
You know, I could not believe, Stacey, what I was witnessing on what today, Wednesday, on Monday night, as I was watching clips from that rally. And this is what's most, I mean, clearly, Trump had been on a mental decline for years.
It's
And
quite obvious.
it is even more obvious now. And as you just referenced, imagine had the vice president or President Biden been at a political rally or political town, I think that was a town hall. And I mean, yeah, you know, people faint, so you obviously need to be sympathetic to them. But when the second person fainted, you know, he said, "Doctors, take as much time as you need," and then he asked somebody to play Ave Maria. And as you just, you know, for 39 minutes, he stood there doing that weird, I can't say what I want to say, dance, because we're live, but I'll tell you when we're offline, dance, you know, that jig, and the people behind him are looking mortified.
Oh, how about
What
Governor
do we
No?
do? I mean, what are we supposed to do now?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this guy has told. The thing is, if you're gonna take one stand, right, you might as well stay with it. So Biden, you said, people said were the cognitive decline was that bad. This what he's consistently shown is that on so many other levels, he's so much his decline far exceeds Joe Biden's. We
Yes.
saw Joe Biden's decline over one debate. We
Mhm.
see Trump's on a daily basis.
Yes.
Daily.
Yes.
And that's the thing. No one is calling for. You still have not heard the New York Times or anyone else call for this guy to drop out of the race.
Nope. Facing all of this
So-
criminality.
Right, and including the criminal. I'm just simply talking about the cognitive decline. But you're right, the criminality. You know, President Biden finally said it though out loud yesterday, and it's a message that Democrats should have long adopted in the view of many. He said that he called Trump a loser, and he said he's only running to stay out of prison.
Yep.
He's only running to stay out of prison, is what Biden said yesterday.
As you
No
said,
truer words.
long overdue. And you notice, Stacey, how the Trumpites have made such a smooth transition to explain, to justify, to minimize what happened on January 6, 2021. They now say, and J.D. Vance was the first that I heard say it at his debate against Governor Wall, that there was a smooth transition. There was a smooth transfer of power on January 20th. No, there wasn't.
Oh my God.
No, there wasn't. If there was such a smooth transition of power, then Trump would have been on the steps of the Capitol at Joe Biden's inauguration. And then they would have walked to the North Lawn or South Lawn, and President Biden would have waved him goodbye on the chopper that would have taken him to Andrews and wherever he was going to begin his post-presidency.
Listen, Big Sis Monique says if our ignorant people of color votes for him and he wins, they will be praying for 2028. And guess what? It's not happening. Everything our ancestors fought for will be taken away. And that's the thing. 2028 will not happen. It will not. We know that. We know that between Trump and the Heritage Foundation, the plan is in place. And this is it. And Trump has been vocal about it as well, that there will be no more elections. If they were to seize power.
Or, you know, God forbid if something were to happen, you know, let's not forget who at the age of 40, 41 had the potential to become the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance. And that's who I'm hearing a lot of folks say who they're really, gunning for. Trump is a has
The Heritage Foundation.
Yeah, exactly. Trump got us to where we need to be. Whatever's going to happen to him is going to happen to him, old age, whatever. But they are really putting all of their energy, their eggs into J.D. Vance being the obvious successor to the Trump movement. And he's far smarter than Trump. He's more calculating than Trump could ever be. And he's got the advantage of youth on his side.
Biden said, he talked about Trump's 34 felony convictions, and Biden said he wants to watch now November 26th is the sentencing, and Biden knows that if Trump loses, he will be sentenced. And Biden said, I want to watch that sentencing. It's like finally the gloves have come off. Finally. And he mentioned that whole 39-minute dance. Biden took him to task on that. I mean, it was what you wanted from Biden. It's what you wanted from the vice president, who gave you a little bit of that. We're going to get to that in a moment. Gave you a little bit of that yesterday as well, or not yesterday, but with Charlemagne. When a caller called in, we're going to talk about that. But also, I want to talk about this too. I want to mention this, Austin, that independent voters have moved away, reportedly now, from Republicans and towards Democrats in a 9 percentage point swing, according to a brand new Gallup poll that tracks party affiliation every single month. They found that 49% of independents lean towards the Democrats, while 45% lean towards the Republicans in this most recent survey. In the poll before this one, where independents were questioned, Republicans were in the lead, 50 to 45%. Now that has flipped. And of course, 2 critical battleground states, Georgia and North Carolina, are kicking off or have kicked off early in-person voting. And of course, the Peach State is already seeing a record number of voters. There's a flurry of legislative changes in the fallout of Hurricane Helene, but even Jimmy Carter has made it to the ballot box.
100-year-old Jimmy Carter.
Unbelievable. And so, Austin, I got to ask, you're more equipped than me to answer, so I'm going to ask. That huge record-breaking early voter turnout in Georgia, who does that favor and why?
I am hoping that it's favoring the vice president in most instances when there is an increase in voter turnout. It tends to benefit the Democratic ticket more so. I am praying, hopeful, optimistic that is the case here, Stacey. But honestly, I just don't know. I do think that Trump has a way of motivating, exciting, and keeping his base loyal. No one questioned any of the crazy. None of his supporters are going to. No one at that rally 2 nights ago are going to walk away and say, I can't support this guy. Right. 99.9% of them are going to remain united, and they will make excuses. He was just having fun. We were just having fun. So time will tell. I'm cautiously optimistic that it is going to benefit the Democratic ticket. I'm curious. I would love to have seen, and I've yet to see interviews by some folks who were in line yesterday in Georgia, and that's just great. And first and foremost, regardless of who you're voting for, that's just great. The folks are getting out and exercising.
Well, yeah, RNG says the numbers are amazing from Georgia. And so according to this individual, Mike Impressions and Reviews, he says, or he or she says that somehow black voting is down 10% on day one. Usually day one in early voting in Georgia is high with black vote. He says, he or she, forgive me, you don't show a picture or anything, so just a meme or something there, but I don't know how that breaks in Georgia. I don't know the numbers as far as when black folks vote and as opposed to other folks. He says, I'm a guy, I'm called Mike. All right, Mike, thanks a lot for clarifying that. We don't want anyone to be offended at all. we've had situations like that, Mike. So appreciate you. But also, Austin, something else going on here. Veteran Democratic strategist James Carville claimed that Donald Trump's forthcoming rally at Madison Square Garden is mimicking a pro-Hitler Nazi event that was held at the venue more than 80 years ago, with just about 21 days ago until the election. Carville appeared on an episode of MSNBC's Inside with Jen Psaki, and he claimed that Trump's volatile language is reminiscent of rhetoric used during the Third Reich, and he urged that Harris campaign to switch up its attack lines from Trump being weird to downright scary. He says, I did not realize when I said that he would actually go on television and say, I'm going to use the military to round up my political enemies. He says, when I said that, I didn't know that he was going to schedule a rally at Madison Square Garden to mimic the Nazi rally of February 10th, 1939. Trump's scheduled rally at the Garden is for October the 27th. And Carville got the date wrong a little bit on the Nazi thing. It was actually February 20th, 1939, that the pro-Hitler rally took place, and they erected this huge portrait of George Washington with swastikas on each side. And they declared that if George Washington were alive today, he would be friends with Adolf Hitler.
So true, so true. I mean, again, but when you think about it, Stacey, all of his rallies.
By the way, Dr. Nicole says Hitler is one of Trump's idols.
Exactly. Yeah, but you know, he's one of his idols. You know, all dictators, you know, are his idols. Anybody who is against the rights of other folk than white males, that's who Trump is in favor of. But again, all of his rallies, whether it's at Madison Square Garden, no matter where he is, they are Hitler-esque types of gatherings. I mean, this is not the first time. I mean, he's been saying, you know, a lot of this stuff for years.
Yeah.
For years.
Well, Mike, Impressions and Reviews says that he's going to the rally at the Garden. He says Trump is doing New York mainly to maintain the New York Congress seats in the House. So we'll see. Mike, hopefully you'll enjoy yourself at the rally. So,
let us know how it
is. Democrats on the House Committee of Administration, Austin, which has oversight of the U.S. Capitol campus and federal election laws, have been meeting and designing a plan against any attempt to interfere with the Electoral College certification on January 6, 2025, keeping in mind the memories, of course, of the violence and chaos that engulfed the Capitol on January 6 and the worsening political fractures that followed. The committee's Democrats have researched and discussed plans to ensure security is tight, and they've begun efforts to debunk emerging conspiracy theories about undocumented migrants voting in federal elections. And one of the issues that they're trying to come to terms with and figure out how to overcome, and you kind of touched on this, is Mike Johnson.
That's right.
So the fact that they've been meeting, and they've been meeting almost in a covert way, because obviously they don't want their plans exposed. But this is serious business, and it's good to see. I think, and I'll let you comment on it. I think it's good to see that somebody is taking this seriously.
Well, think of how, you know, in a perfect world, on January 6, 2021, the Vice President, the President-elect, I'm going to claim it, Kamala Harris, will be presiding over the Senate for the certification process of her election as president. She's the presiding officer as the Vice President of the United States. Hakeem Jeffries can be presiding over this process in the House as the first Black Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives. That's a perfect scenario.
Mm-hmm.
An imperfect scenario is if the Republicans maintain control of the House on November 5th. And even if Mike Johnson, and some are saying that they're going to toss him to the side, but no matter who is the Republican Speaker of the House, he's going to be in Donald Trump's hip pocket.
Mm-hmm.
The Senate, we barely have control over the Senate with Chuck Schumer as the majority leader. If we lose control, obviously a Republican will be the majority leader. So these plans that you just referenced are good. They need to be done, but the implementation on January 6th, if the right persons are not in place, it could all go wrong.
So, Mike, impressions and reviews. Power 96 says if Mike is black, he better be careful. Trump supporters beat up black people at his rallies. And that is an undeniable fact that we have seen a lot of that lately. That might be something I don't know. We don't know, of course, if Mike impressions and reviews is black or white, but he also mentions Mike impressions mentions he believes that if Trump wins, he says he's a white dude as far as he knows. He says if Trump wins, even if he says Jamie Raskin and Democrats might try and stop him due to the 14th Amendment and claim insurrectionist. Well, I don't know that would hold up with Trump's Supreme Court. So
no,
but also there's been no evidence, Mike. Let's and talking in real talk, Mike impressions that there's been no evidence whatsoever of Jamie Raskin and other Democrats trying to pull a January 6th. And I'm not talking about the Capitol riot, but I'm talking about stopping the certification of an election. The closest thing we had to that was a legitimate beef back in 2000, George Bush and Al Gore. Gore appealed all the way to the Supreme Court because of what the shenanigans that went on in Florida. So that was a legitimate beef. There was no legitimate beef in 2020, and there was certainly no legitimate reason to encourage a mob to destroy and go after and try and kill your vice president, to go after and try and kill Nancy Pelosi or any politician for that matter. So let's just go with history, and history suggests that it's the MAGA folks that do that and not other folks.
So Stacey, I was looking I'm a history buff, and I was looking, just going through YouTube, and I came across January 6, 1961, when Richard Nixon, then the vice president, had to certify his election loss to President-elect John F. Kennedy. So there is a history. I mean, our history is filled with numerous instances of a peaceful transfer of power. Vice President Gore did it on January 6, 2001. Only on January 6, 2021 did this whole scenario change. Folks didn't even know. I would say that most Americans did not even know the symbolism of January 6th. Most Americans probably say, okay, we elect our president, and then some people may know that the inauguration, there it is here, that the inauguration is on January 20th. But folks now know January 6th because of what happened almost 4 years ago, and not in a good way.
Right, not in a good way. And that is
honestly, there were in 1960 there were lots of questions about election election interference, particularly in Chicago, in Illinois. But again, Vice President Nixon, I wish it had been President Nixon, 10, 12 years later, but Vice President Nixon put his country before party. And that's what we lost with Donald Trump's nonsense 4 years ago.
It's interesting. Mike Impression says if this election is close, we could have a contingent election, and that would be interesting. House chooses the president and the Senate chooses the VP.
We need the majority. We need the majority.
Yeah. So the thing is, with that though, and I've thought about this, and I'm sure others have thought. It's not an original thought. Um, and I'm asking Austin, why haven't we had a situation where we had a one party running for president and the other party running together, a joint ticket? One is Republican and one is Democrat. Um, that has that ever been tried?
I don't know that it's ever been. I'm pretty certain it's never occurred. I'm 100% certain it's never occurred. I'm less
Really not
sure.
victorious anyway.
I'm less sure that there has even been an attempt to do so. I was encouraged.
Wouldn't that be? It just seems theoretically, maybe, and again, maybe I'm wrong, but theoretically, um, wouldn't that be better for the country if you could have the two parties come together like that? Two people from different parties lead.
I think on paper
Tribalism, she
that
says.
sounds great. I
Mhm.
think in actuality it would be great, but not likely to happen. Particularly now with there being such a pretty much even 50-50 split in the country. I was encouraged to hear Vice President Harris say the other day that she will have a Republican, at least one Republican in her cabinet. I recall. I think it was President Clinton who had former Senator Cohen from Maine, who was a moderate Republican, serve as his Secretary of Defense for his 8 years. So
I don't think it'll be Mitt Romney though. I think he has come out and said while he supports her run for president, he would not work in her cabinet. I think he's actually said he would not go that far.
and he's also he had not even said that he will vote for the vice president. I am so tired of these fickle, lame, spineless.
Austin is getting fed up.
I mean, it makes no sense. This man, his seat is safe in Utah. Guess why his seat is safe? Because he's not running again. He's financially secure. He rightfully has come out against Donald Trump. So why not endorse Kamala Harris as the next president if you are as concerned about the republic as you profess to be? Where is George W. Bush?
Mike Impression says that Obama had Richard Lugar, a Republican, in his cabinet.
That's right. I've forgotten about Senator Lugar. Yep,
Yes.
yep, Mike, you're right.
Greer says too much tribalism. Well, we'll see. Real quick though, yeah, he says if Orange says if Trump wins, he might have one black person in his entire administration. Ben Carson was the last token, and Ben Carson will be that again. Mike Impression says he's a bit of a political junkie, and Mike V says he has nothing to lose. Come out and endorse her. Talking about Mitt Romney.
Mhm.
But here's a couple quick things, Austin. More than 230 doctors, nurses, and healthcare professionals have called on former President Trump to release his medical records, arguing that he should be transparent about his health, given his advance in age and the fact that the vice president has recently released hers. Trump refused to release his taxes. He's refusing to release his medical records. Is there something that they don't want you to know that they fear might swing voters? I don't think at this point that if there was something wrong in Trump's medical files, I don't think that those who support him would not support him.
Agreed. Let's remember that disastrous June 27th, 2024 presidential debate between President Biden and ex-President Trump. Everyone knew President Biden's health history. Why? Because once a quarter he goes to Walter Reed, or twice a year he goes to Walter Reed, gets a complete physical, and a detailed report of his health is released. The vice president does the same thing. Again, this turning over political norms to benefit Donald Trump has never been done. You just referenced, taxes, and he'll tell you he won't do it. He will not release his medical records, and his supporters will say, "Well, folks don't care about his cholesterol. I could care less about his cholesterol, but I want to know his, mental fitness." He made that a central issue in the campaign until Joe Biden was forced to step down because of obvious limitations that come with getting older. And now that the attention is on him, everybody's gone silent.
Yeah. Well, the real plan.
I'm not the first one that's saying this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Here's the thing: Trump is not okay. His people know that. What they're planning on doing is that if he gets in office, they will basically invoke the 25th Amendment and get him out the paint and put Vance as president.
Right. That's right.
Y'all, when I tell you we cannot afford this, none of this, we cannot afford none of this. Like, we can't afford none of this. So again, in case you did not know the plan, that is obvious. They know he's in mental decline. A lot of people, medical professionals, are like, he is showing signs of dementia. The Republicans know this. So they're going to get him out the paint and just put Vance in, who is even more dangerous because he has sane washed Project 2025. He's young and he makes evil look better than Trump ever did.
I just wish Lovey wouldn't have said that from her bed.
Exactly.
But she makes some great points. Listen, Austin. In Georgia, a judge. This is pretty big. A judge rejected a bid by Trump and his allies to give local election board officials the right to refuse to certify results when they suspect fraud or other irregularities. Fulton County Superior Court Judge James McBurney ruled that state law requires those boards to certify the vote totals presented to them with any disputes brought to court following that certification. So this is important because they had talked about not certifying and waiting to certify, and the judge said, "No, you got to follow the law here."
Good. Good for that. Good for that judge. And that just goes to show you how we have to get out and vote at the top of the ticket, but we've also got to get out and vote for folks all the way down ballot. And I'm assuming that this judge was appointed by someone. I would love to know if he or she is a Republican or Democrat. Not that it matters, but it's a fair judgment. It's a fair ruling, and it goes to show you again how Republicans are working behind the scenes at the local levels to undercut a potential win by Vice President Harris. And these types of shenanigans are not only being tried in Chicago, but they're being tried in all of the battleground states, which is why we have to be even more vigilant.
Well, Orange G gives us some history. He says, on a side note, John Brown's raid started on this date in 1859. Basically, his raid started the U.S. Civil War.
Okay.
Some history. Wow. And Michelle, and some more history. Michelle Madison says, happy 29th anniversary of the Million Man March. Kudos to Dr.
Right.
Benjamin F. Chambers Jr. on his leadership in bringing that significant day to fruition.
29, and think about that. And thank you, Michelle, for bringing that to our attention. I mean, think about that. 1 million young Black men, middle-aged men, older Black men descended on Washington, D.C., and the entire protest was peaceful. No rioting, no storming of the Capitol, no trying to storm the White House, no going up and down streets in Washington, D.C., breaking windows, mugging people. I mean, again, the purpose of that march was to, voting rights and economic rights, economic justice, and jobs. And
Were you, did you go? Was you there?
No.
Yeah, because when you started off by saying young people, I said, oh, okay, Austin wasn't there.
No. Good one, Stacey. No. I was out of the country on that
Okay.
when it took place. But I mean, again, it goes back to the Civil Rights March. 250,000 people descended on Washington, August 28th, 1963. No arrests, no attacking of the police, no storming of the Capitol. They were on the mall, just like those nuts were on the mall on January 6th. Had they marched to the Capitol, we know for certain that it would have been a peaceful march on the steps of the Capitol. So yeah.
Wow. Well, Mike V says that the Bloomberg interview with
Yes.
Trump tells you what's in his head and what he has in store for November. Yeah, he hasn't. That's the thing. He has not hid that, and and I know we, at least um, Mike impressions is that he says he's a Trump supporter. I just don't get that his this idea of an angry campaign, just lashing out. All you hear is this guy. You hear anger and vitriol and lashing out, and what you don't hear is how you're going to help American people, all people, um, including his supporters. He never articulates that. At least we haven't heard it. Greer and I have been on the streets and we've talked to Trump supporters, and we have not heard anybody really just tell us what they believe he will do to improve their life, their situations, whether it's economically, whether it's healthcare, or anything really. What we hear is repeating that, oh well, he'll do a much better job than Biden. He'll do a much better job than Harris. But what job are we talking about? So when one guy says, it was a young guy, and I'll never forget, he went to college student from Boston, and he said he didn't know about Trump's history. He didn't know about his history of being charged with crimes. He didn't know about his history of racism. He didn't know about his history of with E. Jean Carroll, et cetera, et cetera. He just did not know. He went on what his parents. He was basically following what his parents did, and that is support Trump.
But Stacey,
And
this young man who you are referencing, I don't blame Donald Trump for that. I blame this young man. I mean, and I'm not saying that everybody has to be, as politically aware as I was at his age, or I'm sure you were, or Greer was at his age. But we all have a responsibility to be at least politically conscious. And it's not like Donald Trump just walked on the scene on the day that he was being questioned. This man had been on the scene politically for almost 10 years. And for him to be completely unaware of all of this is not his parents' fault, it's his fault. Same way with that nonsense that Janet Jackson said. A couple of some people are telling her, you can't pick up a damn newspaper and read. You're not following politics. and I mean, if I may, did the vice president have anything to do with the Michael Jackson trials?
No, the vice president did not. But there's this has been this talk that she did support the district attorney Tom Sneddon. And remember, support. What does that mean? Support. She was never there at the trial. She was never. It wasn't her case at all. It wasn't an attorney general case. And if she offered any support, maybe she offered him some advice. Who knows? I spoke to the district attorney a lot during that trial, before, during, and even after, and he never indicated that anybody else was giving him input. And certainly the name Kamala Harris never came up. Now, not that he not that I asked, and not that he would voluntarily divulge that at that time, but he was very clear. This was his case. This wasn't Gil Garcetti down in Los Angeles. It wasn't his case. It wasn't anybody else's case. Certainly up in San Francisco. Why would he reach out to her? Now, see, Mike, impressions. I've been, been feeling you a little bit. I understand where you can, but this nonsense. The last thing you wrote, I'm not even going to repeat. People can see that. Not going to repeat that because it's just really, come on. Let's not go there, Mike. You have acquitted yourself pretty well. The first time I've seen a Trump supporter acquit themselves pretty decently. But you got to throw it all away, right? He did say that he used to do a lot of overtime. This is not the comment I was talking about, but he did a lot of overtime. And he says his family members do a lot of overtime, and Trump is proposing no tax on overtime, and he feels that is appealing. Okay, fine. But here's the question. Would the federal government have any jurisdiction on a company's overtime? He says, let him have a little fun. Yeah, but not there. We don't like to go there because that's too much with that. You can have some fun. We don't mind the off-color jokes sometimes, certain off-color jokes, but that one, it's just a little much for this program. I'm sorry, Mike, we can't do that. But you can have some fun, absolutely. Let's before we go, I promised that two gray-bearded men, one old, one not so old. We're going to talk about Meg Thee Stallion. He said, "Okay, all right, Mike. You're good. Meg Thee Stallion is ready to tell her story. This week, she announced the release date of an upcoming documentary with Prime Video. Production on Megan Thee Stallion, in her words, was led by an Emmy-winning director, the person who also directed Lizzo's reality series, Watch Out for the Big Girls. Hotties, the new documentary, is out October 31st, and Meg says she's a little nervous and exciting, but she says it's finally here, and she feels honored to work with Amazon, MGM Studios, Rock Nation, and Time Studios to share her story. She said this will talk about everything, including the big elephant that will be in the room if she didn't talk about it, and that is the situation with Tory Lanez. And we know that she took a lot of heat and a lot of vitriol, talk about vitriol, but a lot of unnecessary attacks on a woman who was a victim. And she wants to take viewers through her journey, including that night when Tory Lanez shot her in the foot. And she says that she also wants to go into, and will go into, what she was doing, how she felt when the guilty verdict came on December 23rd, 2022. She talks about how it was more than just vindication for her, but it was a victory for every woman who has ever been shamed, dismissed, and blamed for a violent crime committed against them. She's a survivor, Austin. She is a survivor. If you're a fan or not, I don't follow her music or anything like that, but fact is, she is a survivor.
And good for her. I'm not. I don't follow her. I'm not a fan of hers. But I think we should lift up any and all of our sisters, and any woman in particular who is a victim. So kudos to her.
Yeah, absolutely. So Meg Thee Stallion, Hotties, October 31st, MGM and Prime Video. You can check it out there. She tells her story. We've heard everybody else tell her story. We've heard people online tell their versions of her
story. Yeah.
So now she's telling her own story. Austin, when are you gonna tell your story?
When you help me write it. Can we talk after the show?
I want to know, though, is there going to be any twerking involved in your story and stuff like that?
Stay tuned. Not by me.
Yeah, I don't want to be a part of that if it is. I'm telling you right now.
Not by me. and certainly not by you. You're crazy, Stacey.
Listen, thanks so much, Austin, for
Appreciate you,
joining
brother.
us this morning. And he says Meg was twerking at Kamala's rally, and that's true. He says I ain't lying though, and that is very true. But thanks. Thanks, everybody. Hit the subscribe button on our Let It Be Known YouTube page and come back tomorrow for more news and information that perhaps you can use. Thanks for watching Let It Be Known.